I'm halfway out.
Alright, today I am drawing Maki from Jujutsu Kaisen.
It was an illusion now.
For this case I will using this cheap mechanical pencil.
To give it up.
And honestly it's way smoother than I expected. And of course the most important tools of all, the eraser, because without this thing the drawing would never be completed. First I am starting with the face and eyes. Maki expression is probably the most important part of the entire artwork, because if the expression feels wrong, then the whole drawing loses its impact.
Oh, yeah, it was an illusion now. You're leaving all the doors locked out.
Alright, the face is finally done.
I don't wanna know.
Now it's time for the body. The pose is slightly bent forward. So the overall proportions are going to look wider and more dynamic. For this artwork I wanted to create a more intense and cinematic version of her after brutal training. Now it's time to draw her burn scars. We need to add the scar on almost every part of the body. Good thing I already finished scars on the face earlier. So now let's get started. Finally my sketch is completed. Now before I ruin it with ink, take one last look of my artwork.
I'm done with all that you can say, yeah. So leave me alone, 'cause I don't wanna know. I don't wanna know where you go.
For the inking process, I am using a micron fine liner. To create clean, sharp and detailed line art, I will carefully go over the entire artwork step by step, making the outline smoother and more polished, while keeping the original expression and detail intact. I am also trying to control the line thickness in different areas, especially around the hair, eyes, cloth and the smaller detail, because it helps the artwork look more dynamic and give better depth to the character. Now the inking process is finally complete and the artwork already look much more alive compared to the rough sketch. Next I am going to use an eraser to remove all the pencil line underneath the ink. This helps reveal the clean final artwork and make the drawing look more professional. Before we start adding colors, now it's time to work on the eyes of Maki, which is one of the most important part of the artwork, because the eyes really bring the character to life. For the base layer I am using alcohol marker to quickly fill the main eye color and create a smooth foundation for the shading. After applying the base color, I am using color pencil to deepen the tones and add more detail to the eyes. Pencil color help me create darker shadow, softer blending and better depth that would be harder to achieve with marker alone. I am slowly building the layer little by little so the eyes look more detailed and expressive instead of flat. To complete the eyes, I am using a white gel pen for the highlight. Before starting the color, I will use this bowl for mixing the color and this glass to keep clean water beside me while painting. I have already finished coloring the eye, so now it's time to move on to the skin tone. For the skin color I am using this cheap watercolor set. First I am taking a small amount of skin color and mixing it with a lot of water to create a lighter and softer base tone.
I've come to take it all. I'll take it. I've come to take it.
For the blush area, I am mixing a little red with the skin tone to create a softer pink shade. Then I will lightly apply it around the cheek.
I'll take it.
For the burn scars, I am back to color pencil instead of watercolor, because pencil color make it much easier to create sharper texture and control detail. Now the face color is finally complete. Next I need to work on the scars across the different part of the body, since the scars are an important detail of Maki artwork. So I am going to spend more time for the scars. Alright, now the scars on the body are finally complete. The character design is starting to look more complete. The watercolor base layer was already completely dry, so now I am using color pencil on top of it to add more depth and detail to the skin. The watercolor helped create a soft and smooth base tone earlier, and now the color pencil are helping me deepen the shadow, improve the blending and make the skin look more detailed and vibrant. Now the skin color is finally complete. it's time to start coloring the hair of Maki Zenin. For the base color I am using a green watercolor. To softly cover the entire hair area, I am keeping this first layer light and smooth so I can build more depth later without making the color look too heavy. Now I am going to leave the paper dry properly before adding the darker shade. The paper is finally dry now, so I can safely start adding more color on top without damaging the earlier layer. Next I am using a deeper green shade to create darker section shadow and more contrast throughout the hair. I am slowly layering the darker green in areas where the shadow naturally fall to make the hair look more detailed and dynamic. This already start giving the hairstyle much more depth compared to the flat base layer. After finishing the watercolor shading, I am using color pencil to sharpen and add extra texture. Now it's time to work on the outfit. For the base layer I am using black watercolor.
Every time we're swimming, you make sure we sing it.
After finishing the base color, I am using color pencil on top to improve the shading, fold and smaller detail on the outfit. I am not completely sure how the outfit turned out this time. It feels like the coloring could have been better, but there is also part of the art process sometimes. Even if every part does not come out exactly how I imagine, I still like experiment and learning from my artwork. Anyway, this is how the outfit looks right now. Let me know what you think about my final result of this artwork.
Why do I dive in every time I sink in?